Chapter 1, The Assignment and the Impossible Expectations. The amphitheater hummed with alien voices, some chittering, others resonating like deep sonar pulses. Cade Reynolds sat near the back, boots propped against the rail, arms crossed. Across the vast domed room, the brightest minds in the galaxy, Zelthans, Kryn, Orvar, waited in rapt attention as Professor Klyxx Sor took center stage. The Zelthan professor's chitinous exoskeleton glinted under the lights. His mandibles clicked in rhythm, a sign of anticipation. "This is the final project of the weapons development program," he announced, voice a low, layered drone. "Your task is simple: create a weapon that will redefine war." Murmurs spread. The air filled with the sounds of alien speech, layered and chaotic. Some students had already begun sketching schematics in their datapads, their minds leaping ahead to planet burners, molecular disintegrators, and quantum implosion grenades. Cade, however, only frowned. Klyxx Sor continued. "I expect something superior. Not crude explosives. Not outdated kinetics. But true power, technology that will force enemies to their knees before they fire a shot." His obsidian eyes swept the room. "You have 1 week. Succeed, and your work will shape the future of warfare. Fail, and you prove your species unworthy of innovation." A sharp, pointed gaze landed on Cade. Cade smirked. "That a challenge, Professor?" The Zelthan's mandibles twitched. "For humanity, perhaps." The amphitheater erupted in laughter. The Zelthans, bred for strategy, found humans fascinating but crude. The Kryn, towering reptilians, saw them as warriors but not thinkers. And the Orvar, crystalline beings who communicated through harmonic frequencies, barely acknowledged their presence. Cade didn't flinch. He'd heard it all before. Humanity was a species of blunt instruments, not artisans of destruction. Which was exactly why he wasn't going to build a weapon at all. The spark of an idea. Back in his dorm, Cade sat at his cluttered workbench, tapping his fingers against a metal surface. Weapons. The others would go for bigger, deadlier, faster. More destruction, more dominance. But Cade kept circling back to a different thought. What's the point of a weapon? To win. To end the fight. But the best fight wasn't the one you won. It was the one you never had to fight at all. Cade grabbed a stylus and started sketching. A device, small, palm-sized. Not a gun, not a bomb, but a tool. One that could shut down any weapon thrown at it. A multi-tool capable of countering all forms of attack. His mind raced. Plasma cutters, EMP disruptors, energy absorption fields. If he could make a device that could jam, disable, or redirect weapons, then what was the point of having them? First obstacle, doubt. 3 days later, in the university's testing chamber, Cade presented his early schematics to his assigned review group. A mix of species stared at the blueprints floating above the holodable. A Kryn student, Draktal, leaned forward, his green-scaled snout twisting in confusion. "Where's the destruction capability? No targeting systems, no firepower. This is defensive." Cade grinned. "Exactly." A metallic ringing filled the air as an Orvar student vibrated disapprovingly. "A weapon that does not destroy is not a weapon." "Who said it has to be?" Cade countered. "This thing renders weapons useless. It cuts through shielding, disrupts energy signatures, and nullifies projectile tracking. What's the point of a war if no one's able to shoot?" The silence stretched. Draktal snorted. "You think you can erase war? Foolish. Conflict is eternal." "Maybe," Cade admitted, leaning against the table. "But humans? We don't just fight. We adapt. This tool doesn't play the game. It changes it." The group muttered among themselves. Skepticism radiated from every expression. Even the ones without faces. Confrontation with the professor. The next day, Professor Klyxx Sor loomed over Cade's workstation, clawed hands tapping against his half-built prototype. You were supposed to create a weapon, human. His voice was clipped, irritated. Cade didn't look up. I did. I just made one that makes all the others obsolete. The professor's mandibles twitched. War is not won by avoidance. No, Cade agreed, tightening a component. It's won by being smarter. KLYXX exhaled sharply. Your arrogance will cost you. I expected crude ambition from humanity, not cowardice. Cade's fingers stilled. He looked up, meeting the Zelthan's unblinking gaze. If this works, it'll be the most powerful weapon in history. Because once it's out there, no one will want to fire the first shot. Silence. Then the professor leaned in, voice low. Be careful, human. Power doesn't just attract curiosity. It attracts fear. And with that, he left. The realization, a dangerous path. As soon as KLYXX was gone, Cade sat back, exhaling. He'd been so focused on proving himself that he hadn't stopped to consider the bigger picture. This wasn't just about an assignment. If this worked, if his tool really did neutralize all weapons, then he'd just rewritten the balance of power. And there were a lot of people who wouldn't want that. A notification pinged on his terminal. An anonymous message. Your device threatens more than you understand. If you continue, you won't leave Xenovis Prime alive. Cade's heartbeat slowed. He stared at the message. Then he cracked his knuckles. Guess I must be onto something. Chapter 2, The Multi-Tool and the Unseen Threat. Cade didn't sleep that night. He sat at his workstation, staring at the anonymous message on his terminal. Your device threatens more than you understand. If you continue, you won't leave Xenovis Prime alive. He read it again, then deleted it. Whoever sent the warning had underestimated human stubbornness. He wasn't stopping now. Refining the impossible. By morning, the multi-tool had evolved beyond a rough concept. The core module, compact, no bigger than a datapad, was nearly finished. It could adapt to different frequencies, override targeting systems, and scramble energy weapons at the source. Cade tested a prototype on his workbench. He activated a simulated plasma turret, its barrel glowing as it prepared to fire. With a flick of his wrist, he triggered the device. The turret's targeting system fizzled out instantly, its firing sequence shutting down. Cade grinned. That's what I'm talking about. The door slid open. Draktal, the Kryn student, stepped in. His reptilian gaze flicked to the device. You actually built it. His voice held something Cade had never heard from him before, uncertainty. Cade leaned back in his chair. Told you. Draktal approached, eyes narrowing. This doesn't just disable weapons. It erases their function. He exhaled through his snout. You realize what you've done? Cade shrugged. Made something useful. Draktal shook his head. No. You've made something dangerous. Cade's grin faded. The unwanted audience. Word spread fast. Within hours, students crowded Cade's workstation, whispering about the human who had built a device that defied warfare itself. Some were impressed. Others, furious. Professor KLYXX arrived, flanked by a delegation of Zelthan military observers. His mandibles twitched as he examined the schematics hovering in the air. This is what you submit as your final project? His voice was dangerously low. Cade folded his arms. Yeah. KLYXX stared at the device. This is not a weapon. It is an abomination. Cade scoffed. How's that? War is a balance. Weapons exist to counter weapons. You have created something that destroys that balance. Cade met his gaze. Or maybe I just proved the whole system is flawed. A tense silence stretched between them. Then one of the Zelthan officials spoke, voice cold. You will present your device tomorrow. The council will decide if it has merit. Cade smirked. Looking forward to it. KLYXX hesitated, then leaned in. Be careful, human. You may have built something that cannot be ignored. Sabotage. That night, Cade returned to his dorm to find his workstation ransacked. His prototype was missing, and his research files had been wiped. The room smelled faintly of scorched metal, a sign of forced entry. A warning. He exhaled through his nose, pulse steady. They thought this would stop him? Grabbing his backup drive, he reassembled the device from memory, refining the design even further. By dawn, it was better than before, smaller, faster, impossible to track. He wasn't just making history. He was making sure no one else could bury it. A new threat. Cade arrived early for the presentation. The amphitheater was full, professors, students, military officials. At the center, a testing chamber had been set up with a variety of weapons, plasma rifles, ion cannons, railguns. The Kryn student, Draktal, sat next to him. You really think they'll let this exist? Cade kept his eyes on the stage. Doesn't matter. It already does. Draktal was about to respond when his expression shifted. Don't move. Cade tensed. A figure had taken a seat behind him. Not a student. Not faculty. Someone else. A low voice, barely above a whisper. After today, disappear. This device will never reach production. If you persist, you will not leave this planet. Cade didn't turn around. He just grinned. Well, now I have to present it. The figure was gone before he could even glance back. Draktal exhaled. You just made a lot of powerful enemies. Cade rolled his shoulders. Then they should have built something better. The lights dimmed. Professor Klyxx Sword took the stage. The final project evaluations begin now. Cade cracked his knuckles. Time to change the game. Chapter 3, The Test That Changed Everything. The amphitheater was silent as the first students stepped onto the stage, their weapon primed for demonstration. Plasma cannons roared, disruptor fields crackled, and prototype railguns shattered distant targets. Applause followed each successful test, but the energy in the room was restless. Everyone was waiting for one presentation. Cade leaned back in his seat, spinning the small, unassuming multi-tool between his fingers. You should leave, Draktal muttered beside him. Cade smirked. Not a chance. Professor Klyxx Sword stepped forward. Final presentation, Cade Reynolds, Humanities Entry. Murmurs rippled through the audience. Many had come just to watch him fail, or to make sure he didn't succeed. Cade stood, taking slow, measured steps onto the stage. He placed the device on the podium, letting the holoprojector magnify its small, almost unimpressive form for all to see. This is it, one of the Zelthan military officials scoffed. Cade nodded. Yeah. And it's the last weapon you'll ever need. Laughter. Skepticism. Someone chittered in amusement. Klyxx Sword's mandibles twitched. Explain. Cade picked up the multi-tool and held it between his thumb and forefinger. Every weapon you've seen today? This shuts them down. Doesn't matter if it's plasma, rail, ion, kinetic, it renders them useless. The laughter stopped. Now, he had their attention. The demonstration. Klyxx Sword gestured toward the testing range. Prove it. Cade walked over, heart steady. This was it. A Kryn plasma rifle was mounted on an automated turret. The target, an armored drone, stood across the arena. The turret powered up, glowing with deadly energy. Cade flicked the device on. The rifle shorted out instantly, its power core flickering and dying. Sparks popped from its emitter. The automated system tried to reset, failed. The turret locked up. Murmurs turned to shocked silence. Cade grinned. Let's try something bigger. A Zelthan railgun was aimed at a reinforced target block. The weapon hummed, its high-velocity projectile ready to fire. Cade activated the multi-tool. The railgun's magnetic coils depolarized in an instant, the projectile dropping harmlessly to the ground. Now the murmurs were frantic. An ion cannon, KLYXX SOAR snapped. A massive Orvar siege weapon hummed to life. Energy swirled within its core, preparing to fire a city-leveling blast. Cade pressed a single button. The cannon collapsed in on itself, its energy dissipating as though it had never existed. The amphitheater was deathly silent. Then, chaos. The aftermath. KLYXX SOAR stepped forward, expression unreadable. You've built something that should not exist. Cade crossed his arms. Why? Because it levels the playing field? The Zelthan official from earlier rose. You think this makes war impossible? It only forces new methods of conflict. Assassination, biological warfare, things no device of yours can stop. Cade met his gaze. Then maybe the problem isn't the weapons. Maybe it's the people using them. The words hung in the air. Draktal pushed through the crowd, eyes sharp. Do you even understand what happens now? Every government, every warlord, every military power in the galaxy will want this either to control it or to destroy it. Cade shrugged. Good thing I didn't put everything in one place. The military official stiffened. What? Cade grinned. Did you really think I was dumb enough to keep just one version? He tapped his temple. The design's already out there. Can't stop it now. Shock. Realization. Fear. For the first time, humanity wasn't the one reacting to the galaxy. The galaxy was reacting to humanity. Escape. KLYXX SOAR turned to the gathered officials. Take him into custody. Cade sighed. Knew that was coming. Before the guards could move, Draktal slammed a fist into the nearest one, knocking him out cold. Cade blinked. Huh. Draktal grabbed his arm. Move. The amphitheater erupted in chaos. Cade sprinted through the crowd, the Zelthan guards struggling to keep up. His feet pounded against the floor as he reached the exit corridor. Alarms blared. Security lockdown initiated. Cade skidded to a stop at a sealed blast door. He pulled out the multi-tool. Pressed a button. The entire security system crashed. The door slid open. Draktal let out a sharp breath. You really built something terrifying. Cade smirked. Told you. The two vanished into the city, leaving behind a galaxy that would never be the same.